Imagine being told that you're simply happy to be there, not expected to win, not expected to compete, just happy to have made it. That's exactly how many people viewed Cabo Verde going into the 2026 FIFA World Cup, a small island nation with just over 500,000 people making their very first appearance on football's biggest stage. Most experts didn't expect them to make it out of the group stage. Many assumed they'd be overwhelmed by the occasion, but something incredibly happened. Capo Verde didn't seem to know that they were supposed to be the underdog. They walked onto the pitch believing they belonged there. They held Spain to a draw. They advanced to the knockout stage. They pushed the defending world champions, Argentina, into extra time. And by the end of the tournament, millions of people around the world weren't cheering for their favorites anymore, including myself. They were cheering for Capo Verde. And it got me thinking, why do we love stories like this so much? I don't think it's because we love underdogs. I think it's because we see ourselves in them, because every single one of us has experienced moments where we felt underestimated. Maybe you've walked into a boardroom wondering if you really belong there. Maybe you've started a business when everyone else thought you were crazy. Maybe you've changed careers later in life. Maybe you've been told you weren't experienced enough, smart enough, qualified enough, or even young enough. We've all had moments where someone else's expectations tried to become our own. And that's why Cabo Verde's story matters, because they refused to accept the story that had already been written about them. One of my favorite quotes says, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." It's a simple sentence, but behind it is one of the most powerful concepts in psychology. Psychologist Albert Bandura called it self-efficacy. In simple terms, it's your belief in your ability to succeed, not wishful thinking, not pretending, a genuine belief that says, I can figure this out. Research has shown that people with high self-efficacy are more likely to take on difficult challenges, recover after setbacks, persist longer, and ultimately perform better. Think about that. Two people can have the exact same talent, the same exact opportunity, the exact same resources, yet the one who believes they can find a way often outperforms the one who doubts themselves. Why? Because belief changes behavior. When you believe you belong, you take the shot, you ask the question, you apply for that position, you speak up in the meeting, you keep going after the setback. Belief isn't magic, it's momentum. Now, let me be clear. Believing in yourself doesn't guarantee success. Cabo Verde didn't win the World Cup, but I actually think they won something just as valuable. Respect, belief, and perhaps most importantly, they changed what people thought was possible. Every young footballer growing up in Cabo Verde watched that tournament. They didn't just watch a team compete, they watched a team prove that they belonged. That will change generations. And it made me wonder, how often do we eliminate ourselves before anyone else has the chance? How many opportunities have we talked ourselves out of because we assumed someone else was better? How many dreams have we abandoned because we believed the story that said people like me don't do things like that? As an executive coach, I've seen this more times than I can count. I've worked with incredibly talented leaders who walk into meetings already defeated, not because their colleagues doubted them, because they doubted themselves. The meeting hadn't even started and they had already lost the psychological game. The same thing happens in sport. The game often begins long before the whistle blows. It begins with the story each competitor tells themselves. I belong here. I'm ready. I can do this. The answers to those questions influences everything that follows. Your posture, your breathing, your body language, your decisions, even your willingness to take calculated risks. Sport teaches us something fascinating. The world's best athletes don't wait until they feel confident, because before they compete, they compete. And confidence grows through experience. Confidence isn't something you're given, it's something you build. One courageous decision at a time, one difficult conversation at a time, one uncomfortable step at a time. That's why I love stories like Cabo Verde because they remind us that confidence isn't reserved for the favorites. Sometimes confidence belongs to the people with the courage to believe before anyone else does. And maybe that's what we've misunderstood all along. Maybe success doesn't begin with being the favorite. Maybe it begins with believing you belong. I think about Roberto Baggio. I think about Vuzina. I think about Coco Gauff. Different sports, different journeys, but they all stepped into moments most of us can barely imagine. Did they feel pressure? Absolutely. Did they feel uncertainty? Of course. But they still stepped forward. And maybe that's the real definition of courage, not the absence of fear, the decision that something matters more than your fear. So let me ask you something. Where until in your life have you been waiting to become the favorite? Waiting until you have more confidence, more experience, more certainty, more validation. What if that day never comes? What if confidence isn't something you wait for? What if it's something you earn by showing up before you feel ready? Cabo Verde didn't wait for the football world to believe in them. They believed in themselves first. Eventually, the world caught up. And maybe that's the lesson all of us need to hear. Don't wait until you're the obvious choice. Don't wait until everyone else believes in you. Don't wait until you feel completely ready. Show up, trust your preparation, take that shot, speak up, start the business, write that book, apply for the job, have the conversation. Because history isn't always written by the favorites. Remember that. Sometimes it's written by the people that are courageous enough to believe they belonged before anyone else did. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson this World Cup gave us. It wasn't about football. It was about possibility. It was about reminding all of us that our circumstances didn't determine our calling. Our belief does. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Beyond the Sport series. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me about a moment when you chose to believe in yourself before anyone else did, because your story might be exactly the encouragement someone else needs today. Until next time, remember, beyond the sport, the greatest victories aren't always measured by trophies. Sometimes they're measured by the courage to believe in yourself before the world does.